Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the June 15th session of the Bellingham City Council afternoon committee meetings. We have several committees this afternoon. The first one is Public Works and Public Safety, and Terry Borneman's the chair.
Thank you, Gene. We have 5 items for our committee. Before we get started, there's 4 listed on this, but there was one. There was an item that was placed on the consent agenda, item number 4, and that would be page for the committee, page 258. That was supposed to have been under Public Works, Public Safety, so that will be item number 5 for the committee. Joining me on the committee is Michael Lilliquist and Roxanne Murphy. The first item we have before us today is a update on the fireboat. So, Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Terry. Good afternoon. Bill Newbold, Fire Department. And what we want to do for Council today is to provide you a brief update on our new fireboat that will be delivered coming up very soon. And before I introduce Battalion Chief Chuck Hinkle, I want to loop you back to the beginning of this program, which started back in 2013 with the support and approval from Mayor Kelly and then Fire Chief Roger Christensen to explore a grant opportunity. And this grant was through the 2013 Port Security Grant Program, and which we constructed to get a replacement fireboat out here for our harbor and the structures that we have, and we were very fortunate to be successful in that. Along with that grant was a 25% co-matching. It was $1 million grant, $750,000 to be provided by the federal government in a 2-year performance time period for the construction of the fireboat. And then very cooperatively, the city working with the port, the remaining $250,000 co-matching was split between the two agencies. And so we're real pleased at the cooperation we've had from the Port of Bellingham, the support from Mayor Kelly, the council, all the way through this. In 2014, at the beginning, we have a brief presentation by Captain Eric Kohler, who was part of that design team, kind of gave you a layout of what we'd be looking at. And now that we're approaching the finish line, Battalion Chief Chuck Hinkle, who's also heading up our design team, give you a little bit of an overview of the construction, the time frame, delivery, and anticipated training that we have. So with that, I'd like to introduce Battalion Chief Chuck Hinkle.
Thank you, Chief. I'll start out with also thanking the Council and Mayor Kelly for the support in this program. Have about a 5-minute presentation to update you on where we're at. You might remember this timeline that Captain Kohler came to you with, I think spring of 14. We had just picked Moose Boats as our vendor and our builder. Turned out to be a very, very good decision. They're a great company to work with. They built us an outstanding boat. We've pretty much met all our timeline and milestones, and we should be ready to sign off and finalize the grant in late August, early September. Take you back a little bit. This is the Firebell that we had commissioned in '85 and decommissioned in '12. Go through a little bit of the details so I can talk about the differences. This was a fiberglass hulled boat, a monohull, 36.5 feet long, and had 3 engines, 2 that propelled the boat and 1 that ran the fire pump. And this fire pump put out about 1,200 gallons a minute. This boat also had a draft of 3.5 feet, which means there's 3.5 feet of boat underwater. Top speed about 14 knots, maybe less than that at the end of its service. And no chemical, biological detection capabilities in this boat. Our new boat, which we've named the Salish Star, again built by Moose Boats in Petaluma, California, 38 feet long, and it's a catamaran. So instead of the 1 hull, it's 2 hulled, which gives it very good stability. And as you see on this boat drafts 22 inches of water. So we can get into a lot shallower areas and get closer to the beach to take care of anything along the shore. Instead of 3 engines, it has 2. And how we accomplish that is the 2 engines out the power out the back runs the jets, which propel the boat, and off the front runs the fire pumps. And this boat will pump over 3,000 gallons a minute out of our 2 monitors. Some of the specialty items on it are the CBRNE, again, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear detectors, FLIR camera, forward-looking infrared, so we can see folks in the water and ahead of us at dark and night. And also has a pressurized cabin, which will keep all the contaminants, smoke, and things out of the cabin and protect the firefighters working in the boat. Some pictures for you, just walk along the build. This is when Captain Kohler and I went down for our pre-build meeting. This is what we found. So they'd already started their work, which really gave us an idea that they were a good company. They were off and running. This was how we found the boat at our mid-build meeting, and really could see some outstanding workmanship in their welds and the work that they had done. Again, some more pictures adding paint and some of the hatches and things. And I put this picture in the presentation just to show a little bit of the versatility. This is the Petaluma River, which is a real shallow river that runs from Petaluma out into San Pablo Bay. So at top speed, we can run on a river. We went out into San Pablo Bay, which was a very shallow bay, similar to the west side of Bellingham Bay, out into San Francisco Harbor and under the Golden Gate Bridge. So we got all kinds of heavy seas there, and also we're up a river. So the boat's very versatile, ran good in all the different waters that we found that day. There's a shot of it spraying water. The picture on the left is the front monitor, and that'll put out 2,000 gallons a minute, and the side monitor on the right will put out 1,000. So there's 3,000 gallons a minute, which will give us a lot of, will knock down a lot of BTUs and put out a large fire quickly. The shot of the interior of the cabin. A lot of state-of-the-art navigation, the FLIR cameras on the back deck so that the helmsman can watch the safety of our firefighters working on deck. The bench on the left would be a patient care area where the seat can turn around. We can take care of patients that happen to be on board. So Captain Kohler and I were down last week, ran the boat through some acceptance testing, have a short punch list of work to do, which should probably be completed in the next couple of days. We anticipate delivery next week, the week of June 22nd. We'll begin the outfitting of that, and the crews will do some initial sea training or on-the-water training with Mark Stott from Moose beginning July 7th. Training after that will be as timing and call load allow, but we anticipate a short time to get in service. And also want you all to mark your calendars for August 5th. At Swallowcombe Harbor for a dedication ceremony. One of the things Eric and I got to do in Petaluma was try out Moose Boat's new drone camera. I've got some nice video of that. To thank Captain Kohler's son, Jasper, a teenager, for putting that together for us. That was the promised short presentation. Any questions?
Okay. Michael?
I just noticed from the footage that arc of the hose, it seems shorter than I imagined. You're still pretty close to the fire, even with, shooting it.
Yeah. We'll be farther away than the other boat, for sure.
That's good.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for the update, and I look forward to the dedication.
And if I may, just to add with that, that is on Wednesday, August 5th, and we're looking at a 1:30 p.m. Dedication. All the components of that are still being put into place, and so we'll be sure to update you with all the pertinent information.
Great. Okay. Our next item before the committee is a discussion regarding changing the name of Indian Street to Billy Frank Jr. Street. This is an item that I brought before the council a few months ago to ask about exploring that possibility. Since then, I've talked with the mayor. We've talked with people from the university. There's no objection at the university. The mayor is in favor of the idea. So we checked with a number of different people, and at this point we thought it was time to bring it to the committee to at least start a discussion about this. I've talked with Rob Wilson from the fire department about this. He is in charge of the naming committee, and he went through took a look at it and explained some of the concerns, some of the steps that it's necessary to take. So I thought it would be a good point to have Rob come forward today and talk to us a little bit about what it would take to do that, what some of the concerns would be, and others, and for us to be able to give direction to staff, of do we want to move forward with more information gathering? What do we want to do with this? So, Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
My name's Rob Wilson, Division Chief with Bellingham Fire Department, and we did receive this request. A little bit about the addressing committee. It is a multi-department committee that's formed up of members from police, fire, the dispatch centers. We also have Public Works and Planning and Permitting represented, and also Whatcom County Public Works also sits on the committee. And occasionally we get Brian from the mayor's office to come give us some support and deal with some of the issues that we deal with on a monthly basis with the committee. We did receive the request to take a look at Billy Franks Jr., converting Indian Street over to Billy Franks Jr. The committee really found no problem with the name. The name is easily pronounced. There's no conflicts anywhere in the county with the name. We did have a few concerns, and I'll kind of just go through a few of them. Indian Street has a total of 147 addresses currently. There's 110 apartments, there's 33 single-family residents, and there's 4 businesses. So there would be staff time needed to go ahead and prepare letters that would be notices of pending action, i.e. the name change, so we would have to get those out. And then those people would have an opportunity to appeal to the hearing examiner if they disagreed with the name change. Following that, we would have to go ahead and also send out a final notice to all of the addresses that the name change was imminent. Some of the concerns that we had was that Indian Street today, it does fit a historical neighborhood naming theme, which is alphabetical. So the names in the C-Home area do follow an alphabetical order. So by adding Billy Franks in the place of Indian Street, it would disrupt that theme. There's also some fiscal impact from those letters, and also from the fact that we would have to rename and re-sign 8 intersections along Indian Street. Really, when we looked at the request to rename the street, we've usually kind of slide away from renaming existing streets. And really what the committee members thought was that perhaps this name would be very well suited down on the waterfront project. There is some street names that are in place down there, but they're really placeholders. They really haven't gone through an approval process. And one of the ones that we were concerned about was the Blodell name. We thought that could easily be confused with Blodell Park, with our Blodell Park on Lake Whatcom. So the committee really felt that while Billy Frank's name could work in place of Indian Street, that we were concerned with the cost and the effort that would go into changing the name, and the possibility of also those people filing an appeal, and also they would have the ability to file a claim against the city for any costs that they would incur changing their address.
Okay. Thank you. Committee questions? Roxanne?
Well, since I'm guessing I'm the only native in the room, I'll say why I'm supporting this. Fundamentally, it comes with a bit of heartache that we have a street named Indian Street, because that means so many things to so many different people. Some people identify with it in Indian country and others detest it. So that's one of the reasons why this is just as much to me about getting rid of the name Indian as it is about honoring Billy Frank. But, you know, I understand the considerations that come from the committee, and so I'll just make a joke. Could we add an A and call it Indiana Street? And then save the Billy Frank name for the waterfront. But that's to get to my point. I would love just as much to get rid of Indian Street as I would to honor Billy Frank.
And unfortunately, we have an Indiana Street.
You get my
Michael,
point,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Roxanne knows this, you know, more personally than I do, but Indian is a conflicted word. I just say Indian country. Many people who are Native American use the term happily, but it's a reminder that comes from a mistake that someone made when they were a European coming over to discover the world which didn't need discovering. It's a troublesome word. I hate to inconvenience the couple hundred people and their intersections. On the other hand, you know, all these names are arbitrary, and there's no reason we can't and shouldn't change them. You know, Magnolia Street, Arctic Avenue, Mahogany. I mean, you know, these names don't have that heavy a significance. We're not giving up very much, and honoring, you know, this Nisqually tribal leader for what he did for the region, I think is significant. You know, and I think there's some weird sensitivities about, you know, honoring Billy Frank by naming him by a street in the waterfront. The waterfront itself is land that was filled in over former fishing flats. I mean, our waterfront is itself freighted with history, and maybe we don't want to open up that can of worms.
Yeah, when I first started looking at the concept of renaming, we were, you know, I think when I first brought it up was about looking at the waterfront, and in terms of talking to people in the community, the idea of Indian Street initially wasn't mine. It came from Dr. Vernon Damani Johnson from Western, and one of the founders of the Human Rights Task Force, and he'd brought it. That when I was talking to different people in the community about the idea, about, you know, support for it, he'd brought that idea because of Roxanne's concerns, and from, you know, just we want Indian Street, the name Indian Street leading to the university. Would it be more appropriate to have something, you know, like in honor of Billy Frank Jr.? So that's where. When I brought forward that initial idea, it came from, you know, members from the Human Rights Task Force about those kind of concerns. And what's the thoughts here? Any thoughts from any of the other council members at this point? Yes.
Yeah, I'm supportive of changing the name from Indian Street as well. I support Roxanne. Her thoughts, I think, are spot on when it comes to the reasons why. We have an opportunity to honor the legacy of a person who had major civil rights achievements. I think that's appropriate that we replace the name of the street now, which is kind of questionable, with one that is more of an honoring type of name.
Okay. Yes, Pinky.
I completely support what Roxanne is proposing. I just have one question. I know firefighters go through training. They have to memorize every street and the layout, and I'm just kind of, if you could give me some feedback, if we did change the name, whether you think it would be a huge hardship or that is something that we could just get through as a community and it would be okay.
For firefighters and for emergency response, it wouldn't be a huge heartache. We memorize street names in kind of in those alphabetical orders, so we're just going to have to learn to go ahead and substitute something else for Indian, and that's not a problem. And I would like to say that the committee really never considered the political ramifications of the move. We just looked at the mechanics of it. We're very supportive of what Billy Franks did, very supportive of how he changed fishing rights and led up to really the Bolt decision. So we're very appreciative of the impact that he's had on the Pacific Northwest.
And in terms of the alphabetized, I believe there's a few places in the city where we have alphabetized streets, but I know, I'm trying to think of just where one of them I know it goes in alphabetized and then it changes and then goes back.
On Alabama, there are 2 V's in a row.
Yeah, so we do have the precedent for that, and even living up on Seaholm Hill, it's amazing how most people don't even realize they're alphabetized. But I think we do have that precedent in other parts of the city where it goes along alphabetized in Alabama, and it does change. But so committee, do I have a motion to bring it before that direction, or of a direction to bring to the council of the whole tonight?
I move that we bring this forward to the full council tonight for consideration.
Okay. All those in favor of that motion, answer aye.
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 All right. Okay, we will, but it looks like we'll have a favorable decision tonight, but never take anything for granted until that vote comes in, and then we will, if that's the case, then we'll continue to work with you.
We'll work to
Thanks
make it
so
happen.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is a bid award for Ohio Street Bike Lanes, project number ES0491. Ed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ted Carlson, Public Works Department. As Councilmember Borneman said, this is a bid award. This project came before council earlier this year, back in February, where council voted to approve removal of parking on one side of Ohio to allow the installation of bicycle lanes. There's also some associated pedestrian improvements, not only on Ohio, but also some bike boulevard improvements elsewhere in town that are now implementing the projects that were identified in the bicycle master plan. Colleen Mitchell is here to answer any questions. She's the project engineer. The department's recommendation is to award bid to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, which is Calicurcio Brothers Incorporated.
Committee? Comments, questions, motions? Yes.
First, I'm going to move that we approve this bid award, but is this project fully funded by the TBD? Is that the single source?
It is, yep.
Okay. We have a motion for us. Any comments? Oh, Jack. Sorry.
Thanks, sir. I'm just wondering, looking at the map on page 16, are there, after this project is completed, are there going to be gaps in between these different bike boulevards that we should be aware of?
At the end of this project, you'll see the Michigan Street and Texas Street bike boulevards there. There will be a project later this year that will connect Nevada to Kentucky and bring those bike boulevards into downtown, but this is really looking at closing some of those gaps.
Okay, and everything on the east side of the freeway, though, that's pretty much complete then for
Right,
that area?
Ellis will continue down to the trail system, and Grant will continue into existing bike lanes.
Great, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion before us. All those in favor, answer aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll recommend approval tonight to the full council. The next item is the bid award for Squalicum Creek Reroute Phase 1 and 2. EV0110 and EV-0116.
Thank you. This is a project that has several components to it. What is before the council today is Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Squalicum Creek rerouting about just over 5,000 lineal feet of Squalicum Creek It's essentially a water quality project. It's going to eliminate many of the water quality problems that result from the man-made pond, Sunset Pond. Craig's putting up a map now to help orient folks. I know this is a project that council is very familiar with. We recently completed the James Street Bridge project, and that is what is allowing us to reroute the creek under the newly built bridge. Later on, we'll also be working on the Beta Baker Trail, which is in this same corridor, and in the future, the Orchard Street connection. But this is an important part of that overall corridor project, something that staff's been working on for a long time. Craig Mueller is the project engineer. He's here to answer any questions, and I believe Renee LaCroix is also here if council has questions about the benefits of this project. We did receive a favorable bid, and staff is recommending award to Trimax Construction, who's the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. We have worked with Trimax in the past, and we're happy with the bid. So any questions that council may have, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Committee? Yeah, Michael. Sorry.
This project's come before us in many phases, many times. I'm fully in support of it. This bid came in under our estimates. Actually, several of the bidders came in under estimates, so it seems like it's a fair clustering. And
Yes, yes. The engineer's estimate was actually the high
right.
bid,
So I think we've got a good price, and I would recommend that we award the bid.
Okay. Any comments from committee? Jack?
Craig, what impacts will there be to James Street and to the parking lot at the park, at the Pond Park?
The impacts to James Street are going to be some trucks hauling. The access points, there is going to be an access point at Orchard and potentially across or just to the north of the storage areas. And no closures, but there will be trucks hauling. We're going to have to be able to get equipment in and out of there. As far as the parking lot itself, I am restricting all heavy equipment on their brand new parking lot. It looks gorgeous. I want to keep it that way. However, we are going to have to access the existing outlet of Sunset Pond where Squalicum Creek comes out of the pond. And the only way to do that is through the south end of the new parking lot, which is also designed for heavy equipment to get in and service the lift station that's there currently.
Is that where the primary staging area for the project's going to be?
No, the staging area we have not. Well, we've given a couple of areas. One is going to be right off of James Street here, and the other is up by Iron Gate.
Okay, thank you.
Roxanne.
I just move that we award the bid to Trimax Construction for Squalicum Creek reroute phases 1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion before us. All those in favor, answer aye.
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 Okay, we will recommend the full council night approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that brings us to, where are we here? To the, no, not yet. We're on the, yeah, 258. It's a bid award for North State Street and East Laurel Street pedestrian safety improvements, project number ES-0492.
Thank you. This project is a safety improvement, pedestrian safety improvement project funded through a combination of Transportation Benefit District dollars as well as federal safety money. The city originally received a grant for pedestrian countdown signals throughout the city. We ran into some challenges working through that project with WashDOT, and were able to successfully move this money to this project, which was an identified intersection improvement project out of the pedestrian master plan, very similar to the project that was recently completed at State and Maple. So Steve Dave's here to answer any questions that the council may have about the project, but again, it's primarily to increase pedestrian safety, slow vehicles as they make the turns by shortening the intersection, shortening the section that pedestrians need to cross, and staff is recommending approval of the bid to Larry Brown Construction.
Michael?
I surely support this improvement the same way I did the one at Maple, but I do have a question because the city's been talking about that entire State Street corridor, and we've actually had some public meetings with residents and businesses in the area to talk about how we might reshape the entire State Street, which includes reconfiguring the travel lanes, maybe adding little micro-linear plazas along the way, doing stuff with street surfacing, putting in benches, and we've talked a lot about reshaping that area to make it an attractive kind of gathering place, an attractive place for new development, sort of like we did kind of, over by the Flatiron Building, whatever you call it.
Bay Street.
Bay Street and Prospect there. Is there any chance in this particular project we could anticipate some of those improvements? For example, one of the ideas is to use more creative surface decorations. The pattern for the squares is a little bit different or something. The decorative features that might go in later on, is there any way to put those in cheaply now, not to change the project, but somehow have it fit in with our longer-term plans?
What we can say about that in terms of the project itself has been closely coordinated with the State Street corridor planning process. As you know, we had an outreach portion of the State Street planning process, included the review and presentation of the Laurel Street information, Laurel Street's intersection. As far as the big picture items, this project and the Maple Street project both build upon the future channelization of State Street with the future State Street planning working around that as well. So the park plazas and things have been envisioned, and that the lane width and channelization is being set up for that. As far as the beautification and sort of the dressing on top, we'll call it, or frosting on top of that, we're going to, at this point, use the standard downtown sidewalk to match and mimic what's going on at the Maple Street intersection. I don't think that we've reached a level with the State Street corridor plan to implement any of those quite yet. But certainly, the mid-block items can all blend together. We do have, landscape planting that's a bioretention palette. The palettes for landscape planting on the State and Laurel project have been coordinated to blend a variety of plantings to sort of tie that all together at this point in time.
Yeah, I know there's discussion about coming up with kind of a cohesive design theme, the way we have one for downtown, but a slightly separate one for State Street. But as you say, we don't have that yet.
Okay. Roxanne?
Well, since I like making pedestrians safe, I will be happy to move that we award the bid for the North State Street, East Laurel Street pedestrian safety improvements to Larry Brown Construction.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion, answer aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will recommend approval tonight. Thank you. End of committee.
You've laid the marker down, 5 items in 30 minutes. Thank you.